Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Good morning and welcome to On the Spot News right here on Zimbabwe Daily. My name is Yvonne Muchaka and let us take a look at the news making the headlines. Triple C MPs kicked out of Parliament. Striking nurses summoned. Copper cable thief jailed 20 years. West abetting corruption in Zimbabwe, Ziambi. Zim economy doing well, Mangunjuga tells Zimbabweans. And in sport news, Sabani Kamsoko to leave Zambian club this month. Another French league side expresses interest in Kadewere. And Zimbabwe breezes their way to the semi-finals at the T20 World Cup qualifying tournament. And now for the news in greater detail. Three citizens Coalition for Change legislators were ejected from Parliament Wednesday as the opposition legislators questioned the detention of their colleague at the notorious Chikurubi Maximum Prison. During the weekly question and answer session, Triple C's Kambuzuma MP Williams Madzimore insisted that human rights and freedom of speech were being abused by government institutions such as the prisons and the courts. He gave reference to the current incarceration of Triple C MPs who have been denied bail in court several times whilst detained at Chikurubi Maximum Prison. Triple C legislators Job Sikala and Godfrey Stole have been in prison since June 14th, arrested on charges of inciting public violence during memorial services for murdered party activist Mo Blessing Ali. The two appear in court today at the magistrates' court. Nurses who went on strike protesting poor salaries have been summoned to disciplinary hearings, but labor unions say this is an attempt to cow them into silence. Confirming the hearings, Health Services Board chairperson Pauline Sikosana said the investigations are being done institutionally and are not they're not doing it at the board. These disciplinary actions are confidential and there are disciplinary principles in place, and when something happens they refer to the procedures that are there. Health workers, mainly doctors and nurses, last month withdrew their services across the country over poor remuneration. Justice Minister Ziambi on Tuesday accused Western countries of supporting organizations that have been breeding corruption in Zimbabwe in a bid to propagate a negative narrative that President Emerson Mnangagwa is corrupt. Speaking at a belated event to commemorate the African Anti-Corruption Day in Harare, Ziambi said the sanctions imposed by Western countries on Zimbabwe taught the country to be self-reliant. The Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission ZAC event was held under the theme Strategies and Mechanisms for Transparent Management of COVID-19 Funds. The African Development Bank AFDB says it has accepted to assist Zimbabwe's $13.5 billion debt clearance plan, partly because of the need to alleviate the country's citizens from the impact of extreme poverty. The Southern African nation enlisted AFDB's president Akinwumi Adesina to assist the nation to clear its long-standing, huge external debt arrears. The Continental Bank's leader arrived in Zimbabwe on Monday to commence his engagement process with President Emerson Mnangagwa, senior government officials, and G7 member state envoys, among others. Speaking to the media soon after meeting Mnangagwa, the FDB chief said, among other reasons prompting him to accept the role, was the empathy on the need to assist impoverished citizens. Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe RBZ Governor John Mangudya has said the country's economy is doing well despite the negative perception among the people. giving oral evidence on the performance of the auction system to the Parliamentary Budget and Finance Portfolio Committee on Monday. Mangudya said the country was not a basket case and urged Zimbabweans to have less bad news. Mangudya said the economy's landscape had changed positively, with more capitalization leading to firms being able to improve on operations. He, however, admitted this expansion had come with costs such as inflation. The British Embassy has dismissed an advertisement circulating on social media claiming that it was hiring interns. Some ZANU-PF members were claiming the interns were being recruited for a propaganda onslaught against the country ahead of the 2023 general elections. Dismissing the advertisement as fake, Embassy spokesperson Kate Chambers said there had been a letter to an advert claiming the British Embassy in Harare is hiring 50 interns. She said this advert is fake and that the embassy was not hiring any interns. For these and other stories in greater detail, feel free to visit our website on www.zimdaily.com or follow us on our social media platform, Zim Daily on Facebook, Zimbabwe Daily on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube platform at Zimbabwe Daily. And now in other news. A 32-year-old Epworth man was yesterday sentenced to 20 years in jail at the Chivu Magistrate Court for stealing and vandalizing ZESA infrastructure. Weli Mariba, who was on the police wanted list in Wedza, was arrested at his girlfriend's place in Epworth, southeast of Harare. Mariba was being sought for vandalism of transformers and theft of copper cables at Chimoa Primary and Secondary Schools in Wedza. A syndicate that used fake identity cards to steal the identity of retired civil servants and then steal their lump sum pension payouts appeared in court yesterday. David Madzinga, 40-year-old, Samson Chome, 69, Lakmo Matuku, 36, and Isaac Mafa, 41, all of Harare, appeared before Harare Regional Magistrate Mr. Stanford Mambanje, charged with fraud after they allegedly stole the pensions of 7 retired government employees. They were not asked to plead to the charges and were remanded in custody for bail application. Prosecuting, Mr. Moses Mapanga said the gang hatched a plan in 2016 to steal the identity and pensions of government pensioners, with Chome, Matuku, and Mafa moving around the country to execute the criminal activities. Mafa would provide bank account numbers, national identity numbers, dates of birth, and banking cards with the details of the victims, but the face of a syndicate number were created, and Chome, Matuku, and Mafa would allegedly approach Econet agents. I will take that again. Prosecuting, Mr. Moses Mapanga said the gang hatched a plan in 2016 to steal the identity and pensions of government pensioners, with Choma, Matuku, and Mafa moving around the country to execute the criminal activities. Mafa would provide bank account numbers, national identity numbers, dates of birth, and banking details of government pensioners who had received their lump sum pension payouts to the syndicate. Most of the victims used CBZ Bank, according to the state. Forged ID cards with the details of the victims, but the face of a syndicate member were created, and Chome, Matuku, and Mafa would allegedly approach Econet agents, mainly in smaller towns, and apply for SIM card replacement. The victims lost their network connections in this process, and the gang member could now assume their identity on the network. It is said that they would then log into CBZ Touch mobile banking platform and claim a PIN. The bank would ask them their particulars, but Madzinga, Chome, and Matuku had these and would enter their victim's national identity number, account number, and mobile number. CBZ would then send a PIN straight to their mobile phones and they could take control of a victim's bank account. The court had that they would then withdraw all the money from the account and go on to buy foreign currency on the black market. And now we move on to sports news just after this short break. Warriors midfielder Tabani Kamsoko will leave Zesco United at the end of this month. The Zambian top flight club will not renew Kamsoko's contract when it expires in 2 weeks. The 34-year-old joined the side in 2019 after leaving Tanzanian giants Young Africans. French League One side Strasbourg has joined the race to sign Lyon striker Tinotenda Kadewere. According to L'Equipe, Strasbourg have already inquired about the player and are prepared to pay a transfer fee ranging between 7 million and 8 million pounds. However, Lyon wants something not less than 10 million, having signed the striker from Le Havre for 12 million back in 2020. The other League One side that has been linked with Kadewere is Brest, while several unnamed German clubs are also monitoring the player. The Zimbabwean forward is looking for an exit after falling out of favor at the club. He struggled for game time last season and is reportedly out of coach Peter Bosz' plans for the next campaign. Zimbabwe breezed their way to the semi-finals of the T20 World Cup qualifying tournament, but they know that from here on, as they face the United States today, the challenge will be a sterner one. The host of the eight-team tournament thrashed Singapore by 111 runs before accounting for a fighting Jersey by 23 runs, while the US also had it easy against the same opponents, but the two face a bare knuckle fight for the top spot in Group B. A top of a top of the table finish is important for Zimbabwe in as much as they will most likely avoid Netherlands in the semi-finals of the tournament. Netherlands are a dangerous side, and the team that faces the Dutch side will be fully aware that they could find themselves eliminated in the semifinals. Zimbabwe have said that they expect to win every match against the associate sides, but they'll still want to make sure they don't have to go through the tougher terrain. Sean Williams, who shone with Bet in the two matches so far, with two half centuries, said they will not be letting their guard down ahead of today's match against the United States. Do continue to tune in to Zimbabwe Daily as we give you updates on the T20 World qualifiers happening in Kobulawayo. And now for the news headlines as we conclude our bulletin. Triple C MPs kicked out of Parliament, striking nurses summoned. Copper cable thief jailed 20 years. West abetting corruption in Zimbabwe. Zim economy doing well. Manguja tells Zimbabweans. And in sport, Tabani Kamsogo to leave Zambian club this month, and another French league side expresses interest in Kadewere. Thank you so much for tuning in to our On the Spot news headlines. Join us again tomorrow as we bring them to you. Have yourself a wonderful rest of day.